He was born into poverty, but he would rise to become one of the most feared and richest criminals in modern history. He ruled with cocaine, bullets, and fear, stealing not just lives but entire governments. Some called him Robin Hood, others called him the devil. But to all, Pablo Escobar was the most dreaded thief the world had ever seen. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on December 1st, 1949, in Rio Negro, Colombia. His father was a humble farmer, tending to cattle and crops. His mother, a schoolteacher, was strict but nurturing. They later moved to Medellín, a rapidly growing industrial city that would one day be soaked in Escobar's influence. Escobar didn't grow up dreaming of crime. Like many children in poverty-stricken areas, he was a product of his environment, observing corruption, violence, and inequality from an early age. But early in life, he became obsessed with wealth, an obsession fueled by the deprivation he experienced. By his teenage years, he was selling fake diplomas, forging documents, and stealing gravestones to resell. He hustled for money anywhere he could find it, selling contraband cigarettes, stealing cars, and running small-time scams. In the late 1960s, Escobar began to dabble more seriously in illegal activities. He started as a smuggler of contraband, dealing in stolen goods and illicit cigarettes, which were lucrative in Medellín's black markets. He also engaged in small-scale thefts, robbery, kidnapping for ransom, and illegal land deals. Despite his criminal pursuits, he maintained a seemingly normal life, marrying Maria Victoria Henao in 1976 and fathering 2 children. But in the 1970s, the winds shifted dramatically. The cocaine trade began to explode globally. Demand was skyrocketing in the United States, Europe, and beyond. Colombia, with its ideal climate for coca plants, suddenly became the epicenter of a booming illicit industry. While others hesitated to scale, Escobar saw an unprecedented opportunity. He began organizing shipments, initially small, then increasingly larger. He bribed border officials, customs agents, and police officers. He hired pilots to fly planes over the mountains and jungles, often with the help of corrupt military personnel. He used sophisticated smuggling routes, hidden tunnels, speedboats, and even submarines. And he was ruthless. Anyone who stood in his way, he killed. Within a few short years, Escobar was no longer a petty criminal. He had become the leader of a sprawling empire, the Medellín Cartel. His operation was so vast that it is estimated he was responsible for smuggling over 80% of the world's cocaine by the early 1980s. By the early 1980s, Escobar was moving an estimated 15 tons of cocaine into the United States every single day. His cartel controlled more than 80% of the global cocaine trade, with some estimates suggesting he was earning over $420 million weekly. His fortune was so immense that it was said his cartel spent $2,500 per month just on rubber bands to bundle the cash. Rats, it's rumored, ate nearly $2 billion a year of his stored money that was stashed in warehouses, hidden safes, and underground vaults across Colombia. But Escobar's influence extended far beyond the drug trade. He ruled his territories with an iron fist, using violence and intimidation to crush rivals and expand his control. His motto, plata o plomo, silver or lead, became legendary, symbolizing his willingness to bribe or kill anyone who stood in his way. Many people chose the bribe, but countless others paid the ultimate price: death. He ordered the murders of police officers, judges, journalists, politicians, and even presidential candidates. In 1989, he orchestrated a bombing attack on the DAS building, Colombia's intelligence agency, which killed over 50 people. He also famously placed a bomb on Avianca Flight 203, intending to kill a political rival. The plane exploded mid-air, killing all 110 aboard. Throughout his reign, Escobar also cultivated a Robin Hood image among the impoverished residents of Medellín. He funded housing projects, built soccer fields, and established community centers, investments that helped him garner support among the poor, who saw him as a benefactor. He distributed food, medicine, and cash, creating neighborhoods that affectionately called him a savior. To many, he was a hero. To others, he was a terrorist. To the Colombian government, he was an insidious threat they couldn't contain. In 1982, Escobar took a startling step. He ran for political office. Using his wealth and influence, he secured a seat in Colombia's Congress. It was a move that stunned the nation, giving him a veneer of legitimacy and political power. His election made him nearly untouchable, an influential figure with access to government corridors. But his enemies were relentless. Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, the Minister of Justice, was one of the few who dared to challenge him. Lara exposed Escobar's criminal ties and pushed to have him expelled from Congress. Escobar's response was brutal. In April 1984, Lara was gunned down on the streets of Bogotá by assassins linked to Escobar's cartel. That murder marked a turning point. Colombia declared war on drug cartels. Extradition treaties were signed with the United States, aiming to send traffickers like Escobar to face justice abroad. Escobar's political ambitions were shattered, and he was expelled from Congress. His name was now infamous worldwide. But Escobar didn't back down. He escalated his campaign of violence, declaring war on the Colombian state. Car bombs exploded in Medellín, Bogotá, and other cities, some targeting government buildings, others targeting rival gangs or even innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. Judges, police officers, and politicians were assassinated with ruthless precision. He offered bounties, $1,000 for every police officer killed, creating a climate of terror. Young assassins, known as sicarios, joined his ranks, eager for money and power. Schools, buses, and public infrastructure were not spared from the chaos. His reign of terror killed over 5,000 people, an estimated toll that included innocent bystanders, police, rival traffickers, and government officials. His violence destabilized Colombia, tearing apart communities and destroying institutions. He was no longer just a drug dealer. He was a destroyer of a nation's stability. This also caused the establishment of a paramilitary group called People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar, comprising rival traffickers, former cartel members, and government agents. This brutal alliance hunted Escobar through the jungles and mountains, setting the stage for his eventual downfall. By 1991, the pressure from the U.S. and Colombia's own citizens reached a critical point. The government offered a deal: surrender peacefully and avoid extradition to the United States. Escobar, ever the cunning strategist, agreed, but on his own terms. He would build his own prison, La Catedral, and it was no ordinary prison. La Catedral was a luxurious fortress, equipped with a jacuzzi, a bar, a waterfall, a pool table, a private kitchen, and even a disco. Inside, Escobar continued to run his empire. He held meetings, threw parties, and even tortured enemies. Inside the walls of his self-made sanctuary, the prison wasn't a confinement, but an extension of his influence and wealth. However, in 1992, after 2 of his men were tortured and murdered inside La Catedral, the Colombian government decided they had enough. They moved to transfer Escobar to a real prison, one under state control. Before they could execute the transfer, Escobar vanished. He was once again on the run. Between 1992 and 1993, Escobar became the most hunted man on earth. The Colombian police, with assistance from U.S. agencies, CIA, DEA, and military advisors, mounted an intensive manhunt. A special unit, the Search Block, was formed to track him down. They used satellite technology, wiretaps, intercepted phone calls, and surveillance drones. They raided his properties, captured his lieutenants, and traced his communications through couriers and trusted contacts. He was constantly on the move, living in safe houses, mountain hideouts, and jungle camps. He used children as lookouts, paid off entire neighborhoods for information, and built hidden rooms and tunnels to evade capture. Despite these precautions, he made one critical mistake. In December 1993, he made a brief phone call to his son. The authorities traced the call to a neighborhood in Medellín. That was the signal they needed. On December 2, 1993, Colombian police stormed the neighborhood in a coordinated raid. Escobar, trying to escape across the rooftops, was shot multiple times, once fatally, through the ear. His body was found barefoot, slumped on a rooftop, surrounded by chaos and gunfire. But Escobar's death did not erase the dark legacy he left behind. In Medellín today, murals of Escobar's face still adorn walls. Tourists visit his grave. His story is immortalized in movies, documentaries, and books, both as a cautionary tale and a legend. New cartels and criminal groups rose from the ashes, fighting for control of the drug trade and perpetuating violence. Pablo Escobar didn't just traffic drugs. He was neither hero nor villain alone. He was a product of a corrupt system that allowed greed and violence to flourish. He trafficked in fear. He destroyed thousands of lives, families torn apart, communities scarred forever. He corrupted officials, law enforcement, and even parts of the government, turning Colombia into a battleground. He stole peace. He stole a nation's future. And in the end, he lost everything: his freedom, His power, his life, his death marked the end of an era of terror and chaos. The world celebrated as Colombia declared victory over its most notorious drug lord. The Medellín Cartel was dismantled, but the damage persisted. But the truth is darker. He stole lives, yes. His story remains a stark reminder of how greed, violence, and corruption can tear apart a society and leave scars that last for generations.